Hi, my name is James Leggett, and this is yet another video of me having a chat and talking to people about things that I think about and that might be able to help you. Um, as the title says, we're talking about, dancing. Am I talking about dancing like doing modern dance or ballet or disco? No, I'm not talking about that. Just talking about dancing for your life. I mean, there used to be songs, and I don't remember who sang them, so forgive me. Certainly not going to do any kind of copycat thing and play them, but like one was like dancing on my own, another one was dancing by myself, and I know those had more about to do with the frenetic, well, the dancing as fast as I can, but just people dancing as fast as they can, like in their career or their family life or their relationship life, where they don't slow down, and I get that, a lot of us did that, chasing the almighty dollar or that perfect career or that perfect spouse person. A lot of us chased around our kids, because a lot of us were like, helicopter parents, which I'm not sure if that came along with us or after, because I know our parents weren't helicopter parents. I'm not throwing shade on them. I'm just saying, kids today certainly are, their parents are on top of them all the time, whereas we were like going around and half the time our parents didn't know where we were or they were working. So, but the point is, dancing in the context that I mean it is that as seniors, a lot of times we get to retirement and people think, oh, okay, I'm just going to slow down and stop. And sometimes slow down and stop means just sitting and staring at the TV. Sometimes slow down and stop means that, I know an old guy, he has like a garage type thing that is part for tools and stuff and part where he watches TV, because his wife watches other stuff, but he just sort of sits. And then there are women that do the same thing, that will just sort of like, okay, raise my kids, and grandkids and whoever aren't around, or nieces, nephews in my case. You just sit and stare. And that can be sitting and staring at the wall, that can be at the TV, that can be, sedentary lifestyle instead. You hear about the old people sitting on the front porch rocking in a rocking chair, and if that's what your life has become, you know, then that's maybe not what we need to be doing, because the other part of the title that I was talking about is, we're not dead. There's no reason why you get to 60 plus and suddenly we're not able to function anymore. We certainly are. I mean, yes, we might have had the onset of health-based challenges that came along in our 50s or whatever. I have lots of friends who've had heart attacks. I have lots of friends who've had strokes. I've had both. Lucky me. Um, but I'm still standing. Another song that I really liked, but it really didn't say dancing in the title, so I didn't use it. But if I could play stuff like that, I would love to play some of those songs, like as a little backup, because that would be cool. But I understand the whole copyright thing. So unless I meet Sir Elton or some of these other singers, I'm not going to use their songs. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm not monetized yet, but so I don't think it's a thing. But I don't want to take any chances, because I want to kind of, if I'm going to do this YouTube thing, I'm going to do this YouTube thing right. You know, and doing the YouTube thing is sort of like my dancing. And the reason I brought up the whole thing about dancing, it's like, oh, look what a clever little title and a little clever little thumbnail. But that's not the point. The point is, I did sort of stop, not because I had a spouse die or not specifically to retirement, but I became a caregiver and took care of my elderly father. I'll do another video about, being a caregiver another time. But in doing that, you know, I just I literally spent a year trying to figure, okay, what do I do now? He had dementia, diabetes, and a lot of challenges that required me being around all the time, more and more and more, as each year went by. And so I did less and less and less. I mean, it's crazy. I did more and I did less, because I did more laundry than I've ever done in my life. I cooked more meals than I've ever cooked in my life. I learned, thank you, YouTube, how to cook more things than I've ever cooked in my life. Um, I learned many medical things that I had no clue about. I'm certainly not a professional or a doctor, but I learned how to give somebody insulin or check their insulin. I learned how to know what to do if it was high or if it was too low. All those things that you learn caring for a person, and you've got a doctor involved and maybe a nurse that comes by once a week. In our case, it was once a month, but whatever, because a lot of people don't know a lot of that has to do with money and Social Security, and so just because somebody's old does not mean that there's people that will help them, unless you'd like to pay them. And if you're independently wealthy and you'd like to pay someone to come take care of your loved one and help you and offset your costs. Other people say, well, you can be paid being a caregiver. There are so many sticky rules to that, and most of them are a scam. So I got to tell you, if there are more that exist now than when I was taking care of Father, I'm glad. And God bless the people that can take care of advantage of that. I didn't have it. But back to the point, I stopped moving. I stopped going to the gym, because I couldn't leave him for so long. I stopped doing much else. And in that year of when I didn't have to cook the meals, I didn't have to get medicine ready, I didn't have to, make sure he was mentally, emotionally, and psychologically engaged, so that, because the last thing I want to think is somebody who's like all but bedridden just sits and wants. He doesn't want to sit and stare either. So I would go in and try to entertain him or find things to entertain him, or and when he was able, even get him to go out sometimes with me. So a lot of that is similar and different to where we are now, because for many people, if you've retired, if your spouse has died, if your kids are grown, whatever your deal is, that you're alone. Being alone doesn't mean lonely. I get that it can for some people. There are some of us that prefer our solitude, sort of like our peaceful refuge, and we love that. But there are a lot of people, obviously, in the world who, have grown accustomed to the noise. The noise of their job, the noise of their family, the noise of their spouse. And when all of that is not around, as a part of retirement, as a part of getting older, it can be a challenge. And sometimes people literally kind of freeze like the deer in the headlights and just do nothing. So my suggestion is, keep dancing. I mean, literally, if you want to get up and dance, I think that's a good idea. There's a kid that's on YouTube, and I just love this little kid. I mean, he's easily old enough to be my grandson. But what he does is such a positive contribution. And if I'm like kind of feeling low, I'll pop that on for like a couple of songs. He dances to contemporary artist music videos or performances, I guess. I don't know if they're all videos. I don't know if everybody does that anymore. But, and he just dances. I mean, it is a very positive thing. I mean, he's not making remarkable commentary about them. He is not being in any way negative or critical of them. He is just finding something with a ball and going with it. And I think that would be a great thing. If a lot of us as older people, as retired people, would realize, turn on the radio. If you don't want to stare at the TV all the time, okay, fine. I mean, I do watch a lot of TV. I'll admit, I watch probably more YouTube, lots of videos on YouTube, than I watch regular TV. I still have some of those channels. Gosh, I probably have too many of those channels. Probably should cut off some of them because I'm just paying for them and not watching them. That's another old people thing. We put things on and we leave them like blinkers. But it's okay. It's all right. So, one of those days when I'm thinking about it, I'll like, I don't think I need that one. So I'll call and get rid of that, or go on my phone and get rid of it, or, whatever we do. But I will get up and dance with that thing that he's doing, or I will put on my own radio and I will dance to music. And here's the thing, I love all kinds of music. When we were growing up, my parents played everything. I mean, literally everything. I mean, my grandmother loved opera and symphony. My mother and father loved, the Beatles and Sonny and Cher and Elvis and Little Richard and Eartha Kitt and the Temptations and just all these different people. But we also have Frank Sinatra and Paul Williams and Paul Anka. I don't know, maybe both of those. But so a lot of different things. And absolutely Barbra Streisand. My mother was a Barbra Streisand nut, And so I learned to appreciate that too. But Judy Garland, I mean, just millions and millions of things. Our house always had music. Mother didn't like the house to be quiet. It would go off for dinner and it would go off, at nighttime. But other than that, just about most of the time, there was music playing. One or the other of them would put on. And, watch radios, 33s and 45s. For those of you that are young and don't know what I'm talking about, a 45 is a smaller record that plays on a record player. I don't know how many young people are going to watch my channel anyway, so maybe I don't need to explain that. Anyway, I still listen to music and I still listen to those artists, but I also listen to contemporary artists. I'm listening to Benson Boone and Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Roan and Orville Peck and, you know, um, the Chainsmokers. I mean, Coldplay. I mean, different eras, different times. I love Kelly Clarkson. I love Taylor Swift. I mean, all these different people. Beyonce. I mean, I just don't see that I have to stop. So I watched their performances. I did the Swifty concert. I love it. Got a cup. I mean, it's just cool. But at the same time, I'll sit and watch, a compilation of Elvis videos, and I love that Elvis movie that Baz Luhrmann did. So I like that. Same with my TV and my movie viewing. I usually try to go each year, and this is not true of a lot of old people, but I know it is true of some of my individual friends because we talk about it sometimes. But I will try to go to as many of the movies that are in the popular zeitgeist each year as I can. And I don't mean just sit at home and wait for streaming. I don't mean sit at home and wait for it to come on cable or Blu-ray. I mean, a lot of people know me. Oh, sorry, I just banged the mic. Try not to do that. I said yesterday I wouldn't do it. Anyway, I collect movies. Some people just watch it on streaming, watch it on TV, they're done. I collect that like a lot of people do books or other things. So I have about 4 or 5 thousand movies, and they're mostly on DVD and Blu-ray. And I'm going to keep collecting them as long as I can, get physical copies of things. And I can usually, the studios don't release them, somebody does, and I can find it. But I'd rather it be the original version. But it is what it is. I collect movies. I have about 4 or 5 thousand movies on DVD and Blu-ray, and I just love watching film. I love watching what creative artists have put together, and more importantly, I love what's current. I don't want to sit. I have friends that do this and watch old timey shows. I don't need to watch The Birdcage or The Golden Girls for the 5,000th time. Those are, great things. I don't need to watch, old reruns of all kinds of other shows. I mean, I love The Honeymooners. Honeymooners is hysterical. I love All in the Family. Hysterical. But do I want to sit and binge watch that? No. I mean, I want to binge watch Friends. You know, I just banged the mic again. I want him to binge watch Friends because Friends is more like my sister's thing. But I did watch it. I did enjoy it, and I think I probably have that series on Blu-ray or DVD. More importantly, what I'm trying to do is I want to stay present in the here and now. And a lot of older folks who are retired are sitting on that front porch dwelling on yesterday, whether it's loved ones they've lost or whether it's opportunities that passed them by. They didn't write the great American novel. They didn't become a movie star. They didn't become, the big businessman that they thought that they were going to be. Um, and all those things are, unfortunate. But, in life, not all of us become the big deal. Some of us just are regular folks. And that's okay. It takes a whole lot more of us than it does of those big people. And, I can't tell you, when I was young and I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to be, a performer and stuff, I would have loved to have, been in the shoes of some of these people. But the way it is I think God puts you where you need to be. And I needed to be at different times in my life able to help my mother. Other times I needed to be there to help my father, particularly, being his caregiver until he died, the last 4.5 years of his life. I needed to be there for other members of my family at different times when they were in need. So, yeah, I may not have understood the why or whatever, but I went ahead and went along with it, and so here I am now. and it's 20 years later, in case with my father just a few years later, but I'm still dancing. I'm not dead. I'm going to keep moving. And I think that's something that each of us, male, female, black, white, regardless of what your health issues are, I have heart disease, I have epilepsy, a couple of other medical things that, you know, um, could be considered life threatening. But I don't sit and dwell on that. I don't sit and worry about that. I don't get sad about that. You know, um, I was diagnosed in 2001, and I didn't for a minute, think that I could have gotten HIV. At the same time, when I had my heart attack, I didn't think for a minute that I could have a heart attack. I was a skinny guy. Heart attack people are fat guys, right? I'm going to do a heart attack video later. I'm going to talk about some of those things because I don't want to get some stuff from my cardiologist and my cardiac rehab person. I want to share some information that hopefully can help, other people that have been through heart attacks. Um, I you don't think all these things, and every one of these things can either be a trial that beats you down, or it can be something that is an opportunity to grow and move on. You know, and so that was 2001. It's 2026, 25 years later. When I got sick, I had a board of directors and I had a company at the time, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna die. He's gonna die." So they let go of the staff, they let go everybody, and bankrupted my company. Well, 26, 25 years later, yeah, 2001 to 2026, I'm still here. Every one of those board members is dead. So go figure. You know, it is what it is. Some of us keep on keeping on. And I think part of that is, and this is the important thing, I think, part of that is how active you are. What are you doing in your life that is keeping your brain and your body and your heart going? What is the dance that you're doing? Whether it's, you've picked up some hobbies, or you've started walking, or maybe you're a runner. I mean, when I was in cardiac rehab, there was a guy who was like running road races and stuff. So, good on him. And then, and I had another guy was like doing like bicycling all over, like on a 10-speed bicycle. I don't know, so I just was really impressed, that they found the rhythm of what kept the blood. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic. Kept the blood pumping in their heart and kept them just alive. So for me, I thought about this YouTube thing, and this YouTube thing is just really exciting. One of the things some people have heard say, "Oh, I can't do YouTube. I don't understand computers. I don't understand technology." I'm like, oh, for heaven's sakes. You know, I get that some people didn't grow up with it. My nieces and nephews all have iPads and iPhones, and good on them. Because they learned that way. We had pencils and paper, and a phone on the wall in the kitchen. But you know, that was then. This is now. Live in the present, and here in the present, we have to use technology. Whether it's a computer or whether it's our phone, or both. So, either sit there and whine about it, or do something about it. Learn how to use your darn phone and learn how to use a computer, perhaps. But my thought was, what I don't know, I have young nephews who are very computer literate. I can pick up the phone, and I don't want to bother them and drive them crazy, but I could say, okay, so how do I do this? And even more importantly, I have found so many helpful things on YouTube to help me. Like there's a guy named Kevin Colby, and he has some really, really good videos about being an older person, and b learning some of this stuff from scratch. He's got a lot more experience. There's another guy, I think his name is John Griffin, content creator, and he's somebody I really like too. Now, he's a little further on than I am, because he both of them are really. Let's be honest, I'm just beginning. But they've been doing this for a while, and so they've kind of done a lot of trial and error, which I'm sure I'll be doing. But they took the opportunity to find something get their rhythm. And maybe I'm using the word rhythm for niche. I'm not sure about that because I'm not sure what mine is yet. We'll see about that because, as I said, I like movies. I like movies, and music, and TV, and I like theater, and I like um, a lot of things. But I do approach it from the point of view of being a senior. When I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of them as part of that dancing analogy. What am I doing that's keeping me alive mentally, physically, emotionally? You know, um, and I think that's important. I think the more that we can keep moving, we're going to be all right. And so if you don't know how to do a computer, I'm not saying everybody has to do YouTube. I'm just saying if you don't know how to do something, anything, there are people you can find who can help you to do it. If you don't know how to use a computer to watch a video to learn how to do it, I'm sure a young person in your life or at the library, and they have like people at the library who can show you. Sometimes they even have classes at the public library. You can learn how to use a computer or your phone or whatever the case is, and not pay a penny. Or I don't know what the library charges. I don't want to speak for them. Maybe they do have like a nominal fee, but I guarantee you it's not an arm and a leg. Just so that you can operate the device enough to do an educational video on how to do whatever it is you want to do. My brother will use it sometimes for like fishing things. Um, I use it for everything. I watch reaction videos to movies and TV shows. I love them so much. I mean, I've been, I just saw Spider-Man's new commercial. Spider-Man Brand New Day, and Supergirl, and I love that because it ties into Superman from last year. I just watched Master of the Universe at the theater. My brother and I went to that. So all those fun things, and maybe down the road I might do, senior guy goes to the movies. I don't know. We'll see about that. But senior guy does go to the movie because I go to the movies by myself, sit there, enjoy myself completely. But if my brother wants to go, or my sister wants to go, or members of the family and niece or nephews want to go, I'm happy to go with everybody. It's just a lot of times they're busy. Young people are like busy, busy, busy. And as a retired person, I figure I'm going to be okay if I don't, you know, have an entourage go to theater. I'm going to enjoy it just as much. So that's the thing. But I'd be interested in the comments. If and I don't know, this video may not get comments right now. Maybe it'll be a year from now, and somebody goes back and goes, "Look at that thing he did a year ago," and maybe I'll get some comments. But what do you do when you need to move? Do you literally dance, or do you get up and take a walk? Do you run? Do you bicycle? Do you have exercise equipment in your home? Do you have stuff that's at a gym where you go to do that? Do you socialize with friends? Do you read? And if so, what are the things that kind of help keep you feel young and fresh and vibrant and alive, so that you understand that you're still here, you're still a part of this world. And here's the thing: every one of us has something to contribute. And sometimes it's important to remember it's not for other people. Sometimes you have something to contribute to yourself. It's like you're doing yourself a favor by finding that thing. You're doing yourself a favor by turning that radio on in the afternoon and just dancing to some song, whether you know the artist or not, whether it's new or whether it's classic, doesn't matter. Just the idea that you're letting your brain and your heart and your soul enjoy that moment. And I think that's a very, very healthy thing, because life can be tough. Why make it tougher? You have the power to do something encouraging for yourself. So that's my thought for today. I mean, it's not rocket science or anything, but it just occurred to me that, when I was dancing, I was watching, the old channel with the Juke Jams kid. It occurred to me, if this is something that makes me happy, watching this kid play music and just dance to it, and then now I'm motivated to want to dance to music because it is cool music and it's got a good bop. I bet there's other retired people like me that would probably be just as amused, whether you watch a video on YouTube or whether you just turn on the radio. I don't care, but just move, do something fun, make yourself laugh. You know, uh, I laugh at myself. I think you ought to laugh at yourself while you're dancing. Laugh. You're None of us are going to be on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, maybe some of you are really good. I'm not going to be. I promise you. But I have fun. I dance, you know, and I'm going to keep doing what I do until I die. And this YouTube thing is going to be a part of that. And whether that's a money making thing or whether that's just a for fun therapeutic thing, I'm going to enjoy doing this. And I hope you find something that makes you feel alive and empowered, So, the old saying from my nonprofit I used to do is you have the power, to endure, but I think you also have the power to endure and to thrive, you know? You're old. That doesn't mean you're dead. So we're still here to dance. So anyway, that's all I've got to say today. And I hope you have an excellent rest of your week, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and that you get a little bit of value from this. Okay? Be safe and be well.